I appreciate y'all's discretion. At some point, we'll have to turn that. Hello?
Hello.
Hey, what's up? This is a guy in the chat.
I just muted the stream, so we shouldn't get any feedback. How's it going?
Awesome. Good. Good to see you. I'm actually going to turn you down just a little bit to try and get your voice to match Toby's, which is a little bit soft. Good. Hey, thanks for joining. I really appreciate you joining the stream and offering commentary all the time. Um,
Yeah, I enjoy teaching. I'm gonna stay pretty quiet though. I'm
sure.
kind of tired. I did a game review about an hour ago in Gooplet's chat.
Yeah, yes. I saw her description that you were doing that. I didn't have time to watch it. Um,
In the future, hope you can catch it, or maybe I can do one for you.
sure.
I actually really like taking pro games and trying to break them down. Maybe not the more complicated ones, but simpler ones. I think beginners can learn a lot, at least about direction of play, as long as you don't go into really a lot of variations.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
I'm mostly just going to listen.
Cool. Yeah, Toby, that was a fine move, man. 4 fours, 3 fours. Those are great ways to start in any corner. Um, Here we often have two options. Usually black, and often black will not want a cross Fuseki game, just because Komi means more if there's a fighting game with small territories. So, a lot of times black will play in the D4, D3 kind of area, but you can also play cross. It's fine. Um,
See, my initial thinking was D4.
Okay. Oh, is Guy quiet in the chat? Sorry, I can turn him up. I intentionally turned him down. Hey, Sage Merlin. Hey, what's up? Good to see you.
Thinking was D4.
Let me turn Guy up a little bit. Okay, we got you up a little bit. Okay, cool. So Kyle took 3 4. So, again, you can do a lot of different things here. I think like a Nick Sabicki kind of advice would be to notice that on the bottom, it's a little bit bigger. You've got a 4 4 stone, and white played the 3 4 kind of away from you. So maybe you might want to approach it, say at P3 or P4, something like that. And that sort of works with the 4 4 that you've got. Sage Merlin, we've got Zenith 13, Toby, playing one of his first 19 by 19s. Maybe this is your first, I'm not sure. Against Kyle. So we're just kind of coaching him through it. And it's okay that we're giving him advice because this is someone else in the club, so it's fine. Approach and close a 3 4 is bigger than approach and close a 4 4. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a fine move. So you are approaching white's 3 4. Hey, thanks for go Gooplet. Thanks,
I
appreciate
am
it.
never buying butts ever again, so here have my last 32.
Thank you for your last 32 butts. I appreciate that. So Kyle's thinking real hard about this. I'm not sure. Maybe he's doing something else. Um, we appreciate it. Kyle
I have
said,
my push talk set up. Is my audio all right?
"Yeah, yeah."
I have an open desk mic, so I have to use push to talk.
Okay, nice. I'm sorry. So this is Athena in chat. Who remind me? Who are you in chat?
Sente. Spicy Sente.
Spicy Sensei. Okay, cool. Hey, welcome. Yeah, glad you're here. You have Gooplet has 32 disembodied butts littering your room, but I can have them. Oh, I can't have them. Oh, okay. All right. You can give me the bits, not the butts. Cool. So let's just go through a simple Joseki here, right? And maybe we can talk about what makes sense. So often when someone attaches to one of our stones, we hane, right? And in this case, we approached kind of leaning, favoring the bottom middle of the board. So if we hane at O3, that kind of works in theme, and it sort of works with our 4 4 stone way far away to the left. So no, we're not doing avalanche. Yeah, so there you go. Hane, very simple. So usually in Joseki, white will come back at Q3. This is a very simple, very common Joseki that we see.
Teach them the Q4 Joseki.
The Q. No, I don't know that Joseki. Okay, so now black usually has two options: either fix at O4, or you can fix at N4. Right. So that cut is pretty bad, and so usually black will fix it somehow. The difference is that N4 leaves kind of a peep, right? Later, white could play O5, probably, and make you connect. Yeah, I usually favor the direct connection, but I see a lot of people favor the hanging connection. It's fine. Then usually white will go out at R6. Yeah, there you go. So
So can I interject?
please.
You're correct in everything, but an interesting history lesson. The hanging connection was favored pre-AI. We really don't see it anymore because the AI has showed us how valuable the AJI is underneath, and the PEEP you talked about at O5. So it's just much more common to play the solid connection now. So a little history lesson.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So like almost all of my knowledge is pre-AI. I watched AI take over Go, but I wasn't really playing then. And I still don't play a whole lot. So, thank you. Yeah, thank you for the interjection. Okay.
Some of us were here for the AI overlords takeover. It was a painful couple of years, but we got through it.
Oh gosh, yeah, I'm sure everyone was just copying AI moves with no idea how to do it, right?
It was 4-3-3 invasions every game.
No one knows like why. They're just like AI does it, so I'm doing it.
And it was it was pretty brutal because we didn't know how to punish it, so you just ended up with facing walls and no one got any points.
That's awesome. Are we not? Lolstars makes a good point. We're still just copying AI moves without an understanding. Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so Toby, usually black now will make an extension, right? So you've made a wall, a small wall, on the O line, and so now a one space extension would be really heavy. Your stones would just be too many moves, not doing enough. A two space extension is usually what we would see like on the third line with just two stones, right? We call that a base. But now since you have a little wall, let's make a three space extension, and that will use our stones more efficiently. So we would usually consider either K3 or K4. I'm not sure which to choose in this situation. Lately I favor K4, but sure. I don't know. Probably the 4/4 stone at D4 should influence our decision there, but I'm not really sure how.
We'll just do the basic fourth line for influence, third line for territory.
Yeah. That's all I would say as well. Just in principle, fourth line is influency, and lately I favor that style. Cool. So white has chosen to enclose the corner in the top right. So that does a few things. It could take a lot of territory in the top right corner. It's also a wall that sort of faces the top center, right? So like it faces the K16 area. An extension in that direction could be good for white. So we could consider playing an extension over there. We could also consider building our own moyo. So maybe now, lately though, see like to me when I see the 2/4/4 stones, I think of like D10, like kind of the Sanrensei or whatever it's called. Each Nisan, 3 Sanrensei. But I feel like lately people will just do a knight's move enclosure on a 4/4. Would y'all say that that's right?
Probably the most common move I see in this shape is C6, the knight's enclosure from the left corner.
Okay.
Especially because white played a small Shamari in the upper right. So when that Shamari is larger, if it was a large knight or even the double jump on the fourth line, black will sometimes attack it immediately. But in this type of board, it's just keeping it in balance with how much territory and influence. So yeah, I think C6 is totally fine. It's doing basically what white is doing.
Yeah.
If you play,
that's B6. Okay. We'll just deal with it. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Did he play?
Yeah, he played B6 instead of C6.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so C6. And just to talk about that knight's move enclosure a little bit locally, it does not completely protect the Sansan invasion. It makes it a co-fight if you know the Joseki to get there. And so, just to say that.
Let me say one more thing about the
please.
Difference between the enclosure and the Sanrensei that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So they're both completely playable, and you were talking about styles, and that's absolutely true. You can have a style that you want to play for a large area, but the difference is when black plays at C6, there isn't as much urgency for white to jump in. when when black plays at the Sanren, white has to invade, like
Yeah.
because black has taken three sides of the board.
Yeah. Which is funny. That
Uh,
sounds like a good thing to me. I kind of like the idea of forcing White's hand. But okay, you're saying
well, if you
maybe.
want to deal with an invasion, yeah, that's a fine way to play. If you're strong at attacking, you're strong at taking advantage of white jumping into your area of influence. Yeah,
Hmm,
that's a great way to play.
okay.
But in this version, the most common thing for white to do when black does this corner enclosure is to go after the top left stone. And so
Hmm,
then the board still is sort of open. But in this game, you can jump right in as well. This would be more what we would expect if black played d10. But this is fine. This is you're going to have to do something about it at some point.
yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
will say I do prefer this kind of position as black as opposed to white.
Hmm. You mean just the current board state? You think black is ahead?
I don't think black is ahead. Like the board is fairly even, and white if white handles the invasion well, like if they're able to settle their stones quickly and come out of it with either a good position, sente, or safe stones that can be used to reduce later, I think it's fine.
Hmm.
I just don't like handing momentum because black is going to dictate the next 15 moves of this game if black plays well. So that he's going to either secure that corner, really get rid of a lot of the Augie that he has on the lower end of the board, and probably come out of it in Sente
Hmm.
to go and do other things. And so I feel
I
black
need
has
to
a
move
slightly
somebody.
stronger position here than white.
What'd you say,
So
Toby?
I've been Yomi. I need to move somebody.
Just D2, something simple. Just protect the corner. It's fine. I don't know if that's optimal. Okay, just it's fine.
That's
D2.
hilarious. I was going to respond to, is it Spicy Sente that I'm
Yeah,
talking to?
that's right. Yep.
Yeah, so what's fascinating about what you said is I completely agree. And what AI will do here is, I imagine as black, you might kick at e3
Uh,
and then white stands up. But what happens in a lot of AI games is they'll play the approach move, and then when you kick or you defend the corner, they switch to the top left.
uh,
They just don't continue on the bottom
Yeah,
because
they
they want to see how it's going to shape out on other parts of the board. So that, and it's sort of like what you said about letting black dictate the next 15 moves. AI just won't let you do that. They'll just go to another part
What
of the
should I
board.
do?
Toby,
they throw a stone in there and go, that's good enough, and then they run away and find the most important points, and then they come back to it.
yeah, Toby, you can just pause the game as well if we're talking. There's a pause feature in the game. I don't know why y'all did 30 seconds for a discussion game. But also you misclicked. I mentioned D2, but it's fine. We'll work with C2. It's fine. Yeah, what do y'all
It's really
think?
hard to do it on the phone.
I know. Yeah.
I
You
don't
need
even know how to
to
pause.
absorb all of our discussion and memorize the Josekis in 30 seconds. So
Yeah.
Yes, you need to memorize all the variations of the Taisha.
So what do y'all think here? So I mean, something very simple if you want to play locally would be like K3, but that feels kind of slow and strange. But I don't know. Put some pressure on that base.
G3
Oh, really? You just hop on in? Okay.
because he played
Hit it, Toby. G3. Sure. Yeah, that's fair. So black built some strength in the bottom left corner, and we can use that to fight. So white made a two-space extension on the third line. We've talked about that in 19 by 19. That's a very common way to make a base. So now white has made that base, but white made it in a very strong black area. So black's just hopping in, and we're gonna fight. I'm gonna grab a drink real quick. I need whiskey for this, so y'all can feel free to give some advice. Yeah.
Sorry, did I make the time settings too harsh?
Oh no, Tom used all my time talking, so Now I'm in Baoyomi and I don't know what to do, and I'm about to lose another life. At this point, I'm just gonna lose my timeout. It's fine.
Pause, Toby.
I don't know how to pause
during
on
your turn
mobile.
if Tom's talking.
How do you pause on mobile?
There should be a button over, if you mouse over to the right side, there's a menu and you can press pause.
On mobile, go to the very bottom below the chat
Game
box.
pause.
Yeah, it's only fair to pause if we're going to be talking about the game. So, is it Toby? Is that the black player here?
Yeah, it's me.
Okay, so I'm not going to give you a move, but I'm going to give you an idea. You played locally, you attached to the stone at, what is that, F3?
G3.
Yeah, F3.
Well, you played at G3, attaching to the F3 stone, and white did not respond to you. So how do you feel about that? White ignored your attachment.
I feel like I shouldn't try to. I feel like there's no point in like going after that stone at this moment.
So when
Okay.
someone ignores you, it can mean that the move you made was a mistake. So they're ignoring you because you shouldn't have played there. But it can also mean that what you did was correct and they couldn't figure out a good way to follow up. Like maybe you attacked their stone and they don't see a good way to save the stone. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess. I wonder if, he played an extension at J4. Am I worried about that right now with my one Blackstone?
So you should
J4?
absolutely be worried about that. J4 does have an effect on the attachment you made.
All right, what up?
Think about it just in terms of numbers. There are 3 white stones attacking 1 black stone. 3-to-1 fight. Maybe you can help that single black stone out. And there are several ways to do it.
Is there ever a need to play like, I guess the G4?
Put it on the board, see what it looks like.
It's me, like, if I extend up one to G4. I guess it's worth a shot. I don't know.
Game resumed.
You can just keep the game paused. I think you can continue playing while it's paused.
Okay.
Game pause.
So with a little bit of coaching, that is probably the best move you could have played. So well done.
Nice. I would have hunted.
So G4 is a beautiful move.
The reason G4 is so good is you now have sort of 2 fights going on where it's 2 against 1. But if the white stone at F3 dies, black gets a huge corner. If the black stone at K4 dies, well, black's going to have a group to deal with, but white isn't gaining a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
You put
Cool.
yourself into an advantageous fight, and that's what you want for the middle game.
Cool.
Hey, look at me.
But the Hane would work, but it leaves more weaknesses.
Poor Kyle. We have a whole team of brains over here. Kyle's over there. He's not even like watching the stream. He's just trying to play.
I promise in the next few moves I'll give some advice to white.
He's not even listening to the stream, so I don't think it would help. Yeah, I think Kyle unpaused the game.
I did.
Oh, why? Just keep it paused, right?
I'm almost sure you can just play with the game paused.
Yeah,
It's
you
like
can.
Not having time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Game pause.
Are you not able to adjust the time settings in game like you can on KGS, where you can just add time to your opponent's clock?
No, I think pausing takes care of that. But you
Mhm.
can play as many moves as you want. You can even finish the game while it's paused.
So this is interesting.
Let's just play the game paused so that we don't have to worry about time.
Yeah, that's what we've been trying to tell Toby. He keeps unpausing it.
Yeah, they just told me that. I didn't know you could play like that. I'm sorry.
The 30-second time pressure could be good for getting your adrenaline going. It'll help you think.
Not so good for analysis though.
Yeah.
No, we're talking a lot, so I think playing paused is the right call.
Yeah. So Toby, So check out what's happening to the K4 stone. Is that a shape that you recognize?
Should I recognize this? Probably. Probably
Okay.
not.
So that's like the
But-
classic ladder shape. So basically, one of the things white is doing is threatening to kill the K4 stone with a ladder. If white played L4, that would be a ladder that would kill that stone. But I'm just pointing that out just so you see the threat. But that doesn't mean that that's the biggest thing on the board. That doesn't necessarily mean you need to fix that now, right? So one of the things we talked about, what you're doing with those stones on the G line, is you're threatening to take a really large corner over there, right? So we could also consider playing over there. So I don't know. We could consider like L4 to run away and sort of keep white, leave that cutting point at J5. We could consider like a jump at G6. That could be fun. That looks like it threatens to take like an eighth of the board. I don't know.
So my mindset was to play L4. That was before we ever talked about this.
Okay.
I probably would have played L4.
Well, there's a saying in Go that is play the move that you want to play. I don't think L4 is necessarily optimal, but we're not necessarily trying to play optimal either. So let's play L4. Let's just see. Let's watch the game develop with L4. Oh.
It's probably the wrong choice, but in my mindset, it was like,
I actually think L4 is the right direction, but the wrong shape. Oh, but white was kind, so you get a chance.
I say that all the time. You say white was kind and they made a mistake.
The reason L4 is not the best move, it's not a bad move, but is if white plays at L5, it feels cramped.
So
And your base is still undercut even with L4.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, K3 was actually better, or L3 is probably the most interesting shape, but that's a little higher level.
L3 is a big fight.
It is, but just in terms of the shape. But the thing here is white did not play at L5. So when I always say this to players, what were you expecting your opponent to play? And when they didn't play it, what does that mean? So I was expecting white to continue forcing with L5, sort of wrapping around your shape.
Yeah.
But white did not do that.
so now is it worth it for me to play L5? If that was his best move, then is it worth it for me to take it away from him?
I think I've heard a proverb that says,
Yeah.
"Opponent's good move is my good move."
Yeah. I think that's reasonable. Let's try it. Let's do it. Nice. And it's worth noting, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, because I've been confused on this before. Those bent three stones like that are often called an empty triangle, but if they're leaning against a white stone, as both of those are, then that's not an empty triangle, that's a full triangle or something. That's or it's just not an empty triangle, is that correct? No one's offering commentary on that.
I think it's just a turn.
Okay.
Well, the empty triangle is an inefficient shape,
Right.
right? You have three stones. They only have, 7 liberties?
Something like that. 2, 4,
Seven
7,
liberties.
yeah.
You would have more if they were just in a straight line. But when there's a white stone in the middle, in the mouth of the empty triangle, that white stone only has 2 liberties. So even though it's taking away one of the black liberties, one of the 7 from the empty triangle shape, in terms of the total liberties, white is losing out 2, and you're only losing out 1. So
Yeah.
it almost makes your empty triangle efficient when white puts a stone in it. Does that make sense?
Well, it makes sense to me. How about Toby? Yeah, does that kind of make sense there, Toby?
It does.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so I'm gonna say K6 is not the right choice here. It's gonna be a really bad play. In my opinion, I don't think cutting right there is probably what I should.
Well, that kind of thing can be interesting. So let's imagine that white had some kind of huge territory around, M9, that kind of area. You can use like a little Suji like that sometimes. So let's say you cut, and then let's say white fixed at J5. That gives you an Atari, at M6. So in other words, you played K6 not because you wanted it to live, but because you wanted to play M6 later. So it's kind of a little sort of a sacrifice play that you can think of later. But
With a little bit of reading, when you're in a tough spot like this, if you're just looking for ice shape or space to try to solidify your group, you will give your opponent a lot of strength by playing a move like K6 because it's going to fix their weakness. But you'll also get a couple of free moves in exchange for it. So you're giving your opponent strength, but you're also getting strength in return, and sometimes that can be a worthy trade as well. It just depends on the local situation.
And let me ask, just because we should consider it, is there any chance that Black can Tanuki here and do something bigger than what's happening right now?
If Black ignores the local situation, what will White play?
Maybe M6?
Yep, M6 is the obvious move, and then Black is going to be running through the sort of gap created by the M6 and R6 stones with a weak group. And whenever you're running through two groups, your opponent is making moves on both sides and can dictate where you're going and making territory. If you Tanuki here and White plays M6, it's probably game over.
Listen.
At a high level.
Yeah, I know. Listen, below dawn, nothing is game over this early. But okay.
But it also makes sense, right?
Yes.
Then you would have this weak group running along sort of the middle right of the board, and White would be building. It just is not something you want to do here. So you either want to be looking after your group or continuing to move out. You don't want to get surrounded. M6 would not be something you want White to have. Doesn't mean you necessarily have to play it yourself, but you don't want White to have it for free.
One thing I try to do is assess weak groups with, can my opponent surround my stones in one move? If yes, it's a life and death problem. Can my opponent surround my stones in 2 moves? If the answer is yes, it's urgent. And if they can surround my stone in 3 moves, I allow myself to Tanuki.
That's a good rule of thumb. So I would call this an urgent situation, because 2 moves would surround the Black group.
Right. Yeah, with 1 move, you can make it run, but it's not trapped, right? With 2 moves, it would be trapped.
We don't want to run in the open.
Right. Cool. So we'll call it urgent.
For me, just looking at it, here's the thing. I think my best bet would be to play K6 to make him fix and then play M6.
I think you can do it. Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
I'm not gonna say it's optimal, but I'm gonna say it's. To me, that's just looking at it as a player who don't play on 19 by 19. It seems like a good shot just to give it a chance to see what happens.
Yeah, let's give it a shot. Do it. I kind of like this too. This thing where like, instead of us like saying which move to play, like we just offer some discussion, and then Toby, you get to make the final say. I kind of like that.
I felt bad when I just suggested G3 because it was just kind of an off-the-cuff suggestion. I wasn't actually expecting him to play there.
Oh, nice. Well, here we are.
It's a little complicated for a beginner game because it does start a fight right away.
Yes. Cool. So White did the obvious thing, right? So when we suggested these moves, this is what we should have seen coming, right? These are the natural responses, just fixing, running from both Ataris. And so let me ask, Toby, what do you think about the cut at M5? Can White make that cut?
I don't think it would be easy for
him. Okay, we got to practice the ladder. We got to work on that.
I guess it could. But so I guess I could fix there.
No.
My other thought was my case. Oh, I mean I could, but my K6 stone looks very weak right now, so I feel like I need to strengthen that.
Well, you could. Yeah, please.
Can I add something, Toby? This might sound a little complicated, but when you played 9x9 games, did you ever have a game where your opponent ended up with sort of an area and you played a move inside and they responded and then you realized it can't live and you just scored the game?
Yeah.
So when you played inside your opponent's area, they responded. The score didn't change, right?
No.
You can think of K6 in the same sort of way, at least for now, because when you played K6, White played J5. You played in White's area, White responded. The score didn't change. Later, saving it might make sense. Actually, it might make sense now, but I'm just trying to illustrate the idea. It's going to be a thorn in White's side later in the game. But if you start running with it now, it's could be something that White will chase. And you can think of it like a 1-for-1. It didn't cost you anything because White had to respond. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I get what you're.
It
What
can
if
be
I
very hard
play-
to give up stones.
What if I play something like, let's just say, for example, I play K7, then I give White pretty much a free move at that point to do something.
So
I mean, yeah,
K7
yeah,
actually might be the best move here because
really.
you're sort of keeping both white groups unsettled and running, and you're just starting a fight with a bunch of groups, and with all the strength of black on the left, it could very well be the best move here. But it's the most complicated move, so I was trying to steer you away from doing that because it's going to set up a big running fight.
See, that's what I wanted to do was play K7 here.
All right,
I
well,
figured
get
my
in.
K6 turn was weak, and I was like, let's just extend it K7.
So if you can play K7 and then follow it up with an attack on the white group below, that would be pretty amazing.
There is another school of thought that you can take from this kind of position too. If you want to play a move like K7 or K6, if you look after your weaknesses first, like what's your biggest weakness with that black group? It would be the undercut base. So dropping down at somewhere like K2 prevents white from building a base with those stones. So it's almost sente because it feels like they have to respond to that cut now, and them turning M7 sealing you in isn't so much of a problem anymore because now you're safe. You can make a living group. You're not going to be forced to run, and now white has to look after their stones. So you kind of put the ball back in their court.
Hey, thank you for the follow, Maxim PT. Appreciate it. You are officially a nerd. Oh,
Okay, so I'll just somewhere else. I don't know.
Oh,
What
you
to
want
do.
to discuss ladders?
Yeah, I vote for the broken ladder here. That would be a lot of fun.
oh gosh, what are we doing with this game?
Okay, what would that be?
So you can start laddering those stones with L8, right? So I'm not saying you should play it right now, but just imagine, right? L8. So then he runs, then you can play N7. There's a ladder there, but you see that the ladder doesn't work because of what Kyle just played, right? That's a ladder breaker. So when they're no, y'all go ahead.
Q10 was a very sharp move. I like it a lot.
Yeah, so Q10, right, for those watching, in principle, it's both a ladder breaker for that, and it's also building White's right side, right? It looks to build a lot of territory on that side. So dual purpose. Very nice.
And playing a broken ladder is generally a bad idea. It will lose a lot of efficiency. Every time you play out a ladder that isn't going to capture, you're leaving too many cuts behind. So this ladder would be a bad idea because it runs into the Q10 stone. But there are other ways to punish because, again, just like when you stood up at G, or when you played G4 and White stood up at J4, I said White ignored you. So White sort of ignored you locally. So how do you feel about that?
We will now begin channeling our inner Lee Settles. Please keep your arms
Nice
and
one,
legs
Spicy
inside
Sensei.
the board at all times.
That is a reference to Lee Sedol's Broken Ladder game. He has a famous game you can look up where he did play a ladder that wasn't going to work. And he did it as sort of I don't know, it's more complicated than I can truly commentary, but essentially it was like a potential sacrifice so he could do some other things on the board, and just an incredible game to see a pro play out a ladder that both players know will not work. Pretty cool.
Okay, so I don't know what to do here. Looking at it,
What's something simple that we could suggest? I agree. The broken ladder is interesting, right? So we at least so what we're saying is not to play it all the way, but just a few moves, right? Just
Let me give you a very simple variation here. When you played K7, white ignored you. It would have been natural for white to stop you from moving in that direction. White did not, so maybe keep moving in that direction.
hmm.
I don't see. That's where I'm confused. I'm like, this point, I really don't know where I should go next. I don't think K8 is anything I should probably do. I looked at M7, but really, what am I gaining from that? Except for putting those two stones in Atari.
There is an incredibly brutal move on this board, but it is not in the direction you guys are looking, and I'm going to keep it to myself because. But if he finds it, it can win him the game in like 2 moves.
Okay. Let's not. Poor Kyle. Why don't we do something? Let's just think simply, right? So, following Spicy Sente's guidance, right, as far as what is urgent and what is not, our black group there is in okay shape. We could still consider something like K2 to make a base and take the base away from white. So that's kind of nice, right? We get to make sure our group is safe, and we get to damage that big T that white has. But it's dangerous, right? We leave this Hane at K8, which is quite severe on those 2 stones. So I would say let's either consider K8 or K2. So either protect that black group, and in doing so, pressure the white T, or protect, your cutting stones, and also in doing so, protects, endangers that white T. It also threatens a net, right? So now we can capture white very simply with M8, if we needed to.
So now that the game has moved beyond it, the move I was looking at was something around H7. Starting that fight immediately. And the whole developed into a giant back and forth battle.
That seems very beginner-like.
I don't think it is.
And so
I feel like this is that one to learn for like many more games of 19 by 19, and still I don't think I would have played that because I feel like I was into it pretty too.
I think K8 is a great move. Something in Go that you will have a lot is 2 players are moving in a similar direction, and you can think of it like momentum. The L white stones at L6 and L7 are moving up, and the K stones for black are moving up, and now black is 1 move ahead. You have more momentum. You're faster. Being faster in Go is huge. So K8 is a good move. It's, we don't have to go for the best move on the board, but K8 does a lot of things. As you get stronger at the game, you'll realize how strong it is to be 1 move ahead in a line of stones.
The reason I didn't say H7 is because it also leaves a lot of weakness that your opponent can exploit. You're forgetting, or you're forgoing shoring up your own defenses to go on the attack, and it requires you to do a lot of reading. You have to read several variations on both sides to make sure that there isn't a way that your opponent can squeeze out. Because usually when you go on an attack like that, because you're leaving so many weak points behind, if you don't follow through on the attack correctly, your opponent will shore up their stones, and then they can come back and attack you very severely. You lose a lot.
So, just to comment on the game as it is, I think white is offering an opportunity to simplify on both sides. So, Toby, I talked about this move, and I think it's a shape that you're familiar with, which is a net, right? We were threatening M8, and white did not respond to that threat. So you could play M8 to kill those 2 white stones that are cutting. Then your black group is very strong. And white, in exchange, could play something like F4, which, as far as I can tell, kills those 2 black stones on the G line. And so basically both groups sort of settle out. And so that's at least an opportunity that's on the board. And I'm kind of a fan, just because I don't know if we want to play a huge, complicated fighting game for
I
this.
think that's a very generous trade.
That's we give white too much.
I think white gives black too much.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was good because we have a lot of center influence with that. So cool, but Toby, can you see the net? So we suggested that move. Can you see how that is how that kills those 2 stones?
I think so.
Cool. So
I'm gonna try to play it out without any advice and see if I kill those 2 stones.
well, I imagine white will also see that they're dead and will then not try to escape.
He'll probably, like you said, play something. Try to kill my 2 black stones.
But there's an interesting vulnerability. Let's say white played m5. You would, if you wanted to kill those 2 stones in the net, you would have to respond locally, because that breaks the net. But anyway, it's so now we're in sort of a settled position. Black is alive and is in the center. White is also, well, I don't know if I'm ready to say white's alive, but looking pretty good.
Yeah, there is actually a way to save the 2 black stones, but I'm not going to go into it because this was a good trade. This simplified the game a lot. So
Yeah.
I say look for the largest area on the board and play there.
Tanuki. Nice.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
So
a
nothing.
good skill.
Nothing is urgent. We can't severely attack white in a way that benefits us. So let's just find somewhere else on the board to play.
Would D10 be okay right now?
So
Somewhere around there?
D10 is nice because it builds the left side in kind of a similar way that white is building the right side. And then another. So let's propose a few moves. D10 is one, so that just starts to build some framework on the left, but also white sort of already has a presence on the other side of it a little bit. We could also consider something like K16, K17, right? Because white might very much like to extend in that direction from their Q-line stones. So if both players want the same extension, it's often a big move for whoever takes it. And then we could also consider, something like we did before where we just take an enclosure with your top left corner. So like something like F17 or C14. So those are the moves that stand out to me. We could, if we wanted Fighting Spirit, there are invasion points on the right side, but I don't think it's time to do that right now. Cool. Do y'all any thoughts from the Don Peanut Gallery?
I think I've complicated the game enough. I'm going to try and only make suggestions that very just direct. I'm going to try and keep my comments to direct play.
Sure. Cool.
Yeah, I think that's what you said, Beginner Go, is absolutely 3 good moves. The top was open, the left was open, and the top left was open. So those are the areas to look at.
Cool.
And this does put the ball in white's court. So white is sort of doing the same thing black just did, looking for the big areas. Do I want to invade? Do I want to split the left side? Am I feeling safe with my group that's almost completely surrounded? I guess white is feeling safe because ignoring it.
And it's worth noting for some of the newer players watching is that these moves are very like thematic in nature, right? When we play K16, now maybe a Don player is different, but for me, if I played a move like K16, it's not because I've read a lot of variations that can happen there. I just see that that's sort of thematically a big part of the board, and I know if I play a stone there, then I'm shifting the game in a favorable direction for me. It's not because I'm like, okay, I see if he plays, G17, then I'll respond this way, and then he's got a ladder that goes there. I'm not looking at that. I'm just saying, here's kind of a big part of the board. Let's establish a presence there.
I look at that board and I see white already has an enclosure with an extension. I don't think I want white to have an enclosure with 2 extensions off of it. So a double wing off of an enclosure is typically a very, very strong position to be in. And so For me, K16, K17, something on the top of the board, maybe going a little greedier and going to M17 is the biggest area of the board. It's the one that if you don't play there, your Leela will take your win percentage and chop 70% off of it.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Sorry if y'all just heard a Facebook notification. Let me close that. Someone's asking me about the meteor shower. I used to work for NASA, so people ask me space nerd questions all the time. So cool. So white is approaching black. Oh, what did Kyle say in chat? I'm liking my position less. It's okay. Just disappointed he got K15 first. Yeah. So yeah, white has approached the corner from a high approach. This is a very Kyle move. I almost never even consider that move. But it does sort of ask black. It does ask black what he wants. So you can respond in a way that protects your corner, or in a way that sort of protects your top. Gung Fusi, thank you so much for the follow. You are officially a nerd. In a way that sort of protects the top and makes territory there. You can also, like that extension on the left that we talked about, you can kind of have a dual purpose move if you pincer that white stone. Let's say, I don't know, something like D11, C11, something like that. Then maybe that works with your bottom left corner. I would say that that's a little bit reduced because of white's presence in the G6 area, but it's something you could consider. So let's propose either a pincer on that stone, or we could consider going like under it, let's say C14, something like that. Or let's say build the top side, something like, I don't know, G15. It's very greedy. I don't know. I don't know if that's greedy. Might not be the right word for that. But let's just consider those moves. Cool.
Another option there is you can Tanuki.
Oh yeah, good point. Yes, good point. He says, "What a server." Cool. So here, white is trying to split up your stones. Any thoughts on what you should do here, Toby?
Small avalanche.
Yeah, small avalanche from a 4-4, instead of a 3-4, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know of any avalanche variations that start at the 4-4.
Yeah, I know.
It requires...
It changes the cuts, right?
The shortage of liberties against the edge of the board are really important. I think if white tries to avalanche from the fourth line, white just gets massacred. But I could be wrong.
That's why you try it.
So if don't know why I picked it when my opponent has coaches. So Toby, if white, so a big threat here, right, is that white splits up your stones. So can you see a simple way maybe to keep them working together, not necessarily connected, but working together?
I'm not sure where to play next. I'm trying to see it.
Cool. So the stones he's trying to split are D16 and C14, right?
Right.
So a way that we can sort of keep them working together and attack white at the same time could be something like C15. Another way we could sort of keep them together would be something like C16, but that leaves cuts and it's not going to work out.
No bad habits here. There's only one move.
Okay, all right. Only one move is C15. I was trying to just propose that it should work there, but okay.
So the thing that you should recognize in this shape is you made a knight's move from D16 to C14. Toby, do you know the Kema, the knight's move?
Yeah.
And white threatened to cut your knight. If you can prevent knight's moves from being cut, you should. That's just a really good rule of thumb. If they do get cut, it's not the end of the world. You can fight. In fact, we could probably find a cut knight's move somewhere on this board, or a large knight that's been cut. Happens all the time. But when you can prevent it from happening, it's almost always a good move. The
I thought
efficiency of your stones
C15
goes so down when you let night moves get cut.
My thought process was C15, but I was like, me being like so new to it, I was like, C15 looks good to my brain, but it's probably not good to the experienced players.
Wait, say
So I wasn't sure.
the coordinate again. What was it? Something 15?
C15, the move you played.
C15.
Oh yeah, it just don't overthink it. It's White's building a wall, you're building a wall, and if your wall has holes in it and White's doesn't, you're not winning.
Another, I think, a fun way to look at it is like we know the saying "Hane at the head of two." So let's say you have two stones next to your opponent's two stones, and you Hane against them. In general, that's a nice move to have. And so when you played C15, it's as though you already had two stones next to each other, and then you play D16. It's like you got to Hane at the head of two. The move order is different, but the board state ended up the same. So just kind of another way to think about it.
So C16 my next move.
I was going to ask you. So C16 felt like the Toby move, right? That felt like something you'd like to play, and it's not awful. There is a cut there, you're right. But we could also consider fixing that cut on maybe a larger scale. So imagine something like D17, right? So
Actually, that was my next guess.
okay, yeah, I'm glad you were considering it, right? So, so in that way, maybe we're building a large corner, and the cut doesn't work, right? C16 doesn't work because it's a ladder, and I can tell from asking you a few times so far that ladder shape is still not one that you recognize immediately, but it's something that we can explore later. But yeah, if you play D17, if White tried to cut directly, you can kill that stone, no problem. Spicy Sensei, what do you have to say?
You boys like reading time to double Hane.
Okay, yeah, we can consider the double Hane. Yeah, the double Hane. But cool. So this is pretty simple, and it's nice. This is a really big corner if you just get this corner. And what's kind of nice is White is building a wall like on the E line that faces right, and has a kind of a wall on the Q line that faces left, and you already have a stone plop in the middle of those, which I also think is kind of nice. You're sort of already reducing the possible influence that those stones have. Starduck 4, sorry, what did you say? Even just taking the extension variation at D17 should be okay. Yeah. That's basically the avalanche with a bigger corner. Tenchi Sawada, thank you so much for the follow and for joining and all the commentary in chat. I'm sorry we haven't been interacting much, but I appreciate your comments in there. Yep. Good night. Cool. So, something else to note. We talked about the ladder at C16. We said White cannot make that because there's a ladder. The ladder now doesn't work because of E17. If you just have, so the ladder formation, let's say for Black, is 2 and 1, right? Two stones together, 1, and then White sort of nestled in between. If these two have two other stones leaning against them, then when you try the ladder, you get Atari'd. And so the ladder breaks. So if we want to maintain that ladder, we need to extend one more or fix the cut directly. So I would say, again, that's two things that we could consider, Toby, is either fixing the cut somehow or just extending. Yeah, I like extending. Make your territory bigger, and your opponent gets a wall in exchange for giving you this big corner.
I like D13.
You like D13. Oh, see, that's fun. Yeah. Cool.
I'll probably peep at F15 first, and then play D13.
Yeah, sure. Oh, interesting. So White has decided to directly attack. So one thing just to notice, it's a vulnerability that White has decided to leave here, is that open window, right? We talk about that second line opening all the time. If White wants to make fourth line territory on the top, he's eventually going to have to, he owes you a move. He's going to have to shut that window at E18, right? And that doesn't mean you play it now, but it's just nice to note, right, that you've got that weapon that's available to you later. Yeah, so let's see, what kind of moves can we consider? What's that?
consider making a base.
right? Now, it's interesting that you say that, right? So so far on this channel, not like all the viewers here have exclusively watched me for all my videos, but so far the only thing I've referred to when I say make a base is a 2-space extension on the third line. So here we're starting with a 4th line stone at K16. So we can still do something similar in principle, right? Where we play close to the edge with the idea that there's potential to make eye space there and maybe a little bit of territory, right? And so let me propose a couple things, right? Something like a knight's move that's how to describe. So the move that jumps out to me for making a base is like N17. It's like an extended knight's move. It's almost like you were making that 2-space extension on the third line, except you just have a 4th line stone now, and that'll change it a little bit, but still grounds you a little bit, if that makes sense. Hey, that go boy, good to see you. Thanks for joining. We could. I don't know. That's about the only move that stands out to me. I don't know. Well, like we could consider like J17, which is very slow, very heavy.
What stands out to me is another proverb: is attached to your opponent to get strength. Since there's not a lot of territory to get there, and those white stones are already relatively strong, we can attach to them and let white get even stronger. They're already strong. You're probably not killing those stones, and at most you get 10 points. So you can attach to them, get some strength, and then you can actually extend farther away to get yourself a larger base. So going as far to even O17 or O16.
That's really cool. So do you think, like, when you talk about an attachment like that, you're thinking H17?
The move would probably be P17.
P17.
Yeah. You can think of it like a wall, and you bounce a ball off the wall. If black doesn't like that idea, you take the corner. But probably black defends, and then you back off, and you have a lot more room.
Maybe the colors are inverted there. You meant if white wants the corner?
P17
yeah,
for black would be the attachment.
Yeah, right. You say like if white wants.
So think of P17 like you threw a ball at a wall there.
Mm-hmm.
And then if white descends at Q18, for example,
right.
then the ball bounces back and you get a larger base.
Right. Okay. Cool.
If white gets annoyed and pincers you, then black takes the corner.
Yeah. Cool.
But it's a little higher level.
Black fourth line, so a move like that, you can still run away to the center.
Yeah.
But this is fine. You've got a group that's sort of got some space. One more move and it'll have a decent chance of living. Yeah, looks good.
So one thing to think about, a lot of times we've talked about on this channel sort of the 3-4-3 formation, where third line stones guard the edge of a territory, and then the 4th line stone gives it access to the center, just grows it a little bit, gives it better shape so it's not so flat. So something we could at least consider if we wanted to make a little house there now is J17, just because we have N17. That feels slow to me, but it's something we could consider, where we have like a third line, then a 4th line, and then kind of extended away we have another third line. We could consider maybe M16 locally, which sort of builds some shape, but that feels floaty.
What do you think about a move like J18, Tom?
Oh, see, it's interesting that feels even slower to me for some reason. I mean, I see that it protects that area a lot. It feels like white playing at J17 is somehow painful, but maybe it's not. Maybe that just helps you make shape. Yeah, I don't know. I'm open to thoughts.
Well, this kind of a shape really calls for an attachment on one side or the other. You're either going to be attaching under the white stones to the left, probably at h17, or you're going to be bumping against the white stones to the right at p17, or so you can think of attaching moves as like you smack into your opponent and the reaction you get makes you stronger. Like you throw something at a wall and it comes back with more force than it had. I'm not a physicist, by the way, but I'm just trying to come up with ways to describe it.
Sure.
All the moves locally that don't attach to a white stone are slow, but a slow move is fine. This is you're just trying to learn the game. So
Yeah. Fidgen, thank you for the follow. You are officially a nerd. Welcome to the club. Get some nerds in chat.
the other thing you can do, there's a proverb: a one-space jump towards the center is never wrong.
Yeah, fair enough. Sure.
You can just jump. So the one-space jump I'm talking about would be K14. So that's a good proverb to remember.
Cool. So Toby, let's consider either K14, a one space jump out. Let's consider H17, it's like an attachment under, or let's consider like J17, which is a diagonal, or even J18, which is a knight's move down. Both of the lines on the J move are sort of simplifying, settling. Okay, so here we're making an attachment, and we're going to fight a little bit. Cool.
So J18 is it is a very slow move, but it guarantees life.
Oh, does
So
it?
it completely simplifies the situation, because even if you get completely sealed in, if white does not respond locally, you have two eyes, and you can actually even threaten to link up. If white does respond locally with J17, you can descend, and you've got that tiger's mouth eye shape already there at the edge of the board, which is really good for making life. And then if white doesn't respond, or if white does respond locally, you can always still jump out after descending. So you have that two-space extension with the wall already to the edge of the board, which is a much better position to be running in. And white would have been undercut, so he probably would have wanted to respond locally and defend his eye shape.
Hey, Spicy Sente, just real quick, because I'm trying to update my little board. Do you have an AGA rank? Do you know what that would be about?
I don't, because I live in the boonies and we don't have an AGA charter here.
Okay. Well, can I just take a stab at what strength you are?
Yep, go ahead.
No, I just I'm sorry. Would you mind just throwing a number out there?
So I'm solid 2Q on KGS. I have a 2-don and a 1-don TieGem account. I have a 3-don Foxy account. That's about 50-50.
Okay. We'll just average it out. We'll call it 2-don. Cool. Thanks.
My KGS account actually floated to 2-don question mark, but that's because I have like 6 months.
My 7Q account floated to 2-don.
Yeah, I'm not a 2-don KGS. 2-don KGS was like a 5-don on TieGem. And
Question mark is not area.
Okay, cool. Oh shoot, apparently I removed that from the display. Sorry about that. Cool. So white cut. And so, H17, them's were fighting words.
Yeah, so H17, Toby, the purpose is not that the H17 stone is going to live. Well, maybe that'll help you a little bit here. It's about creating speed and forcing moves. So there are really only three ways to continue. But the one obvious way is you're setting up a crosscut. So you expect, when you play H17, you expect to get cut. If you allow white to fix the cut now, then H17 was wasted. So you pretty much have to make the cut at J16 now. But the benefit of this is the stone at H17 is going to help you in the fighting that's going to happen. It may not live, but that's fine, because the fighting is going to help you either settle your stones or move out into the center. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And I guess to follow up, just in your mind, put a white stone where you just played, and it'll help you see why you really can't allow that. because then why did you play h17?
Yes.
But in this way, you suddenly created a situation where white's got problems, and we see white just fixed one of them. Hard to fix them both, though.
So, Toby, are any continuations sticking out to you?
Is G16 okay to play right here?
G16.
Put the white stone in authority and keep it. I guess my thought process was I didn't want it to link up with the E-line white stone.
You don't want it to link up with the E-line whitestone. Well, that's fair. Excuse me. So think about, right, so what is white's natural response, right? You play G16, and then what does white play in kind of the simplest variation? Thanks.
The H15.
Yeah, H15 just extends, right? And so now black has an issue with the cut at G17, for example. And black is still not quite settled, around L17, that area. So I think we might be strengthening white with that Atari. We might be causing more problems for ourselves than maybe we're solving. I like the aggressiveness. I am always for fighting spirit. But I think that might just be a bit too much here. So we played H17 while we were thinking about our stones in the L17 area, right? Those two and then the one. So maybe we can think about how to continue using that H17, even if it dies, in a way to build the L17 area. So just to propose, maybe we think about K17, where we bend down, and now we have sort of an extension from a wall. And that also threatens to kill J18, those two white stones, because if white ignores, black can descend at H18. Or, gosh, what else could we consider? We could consider, for example, H15. If you're really in the mood to Atari that stone, that at least does help bring black to the outside. But
so both moves you mentioned are white's prerogative. White, those moves belong to white in this situation. And the order may or may not matter. But the whole purpose of H17 was to give black forcing moves. So yeah, the K17 is forcing, and then H15 is forcing. So if you get two forcing moves, then giving up one stone on the inside of white's shape is great. We want white to take that stone. That's like feeding the stone to white so that we can make ourselves strong on the outside.
So Toby, I'm curious, can you see the variation? Let's say white plays, H15, and you decide you want to kill those two white stones at J18. Can you see the variation, how to start?
Would it be H18?
H18 is the way to start. And so then and white is indeed offering you the opportunity. And so then let's say white runs at K18. Can you see? And feel free to, just like counting on your fingers is fine when you're learning math as a child. Feel free to point with your fingers on the board. Don't touch the board because you'll place a stone. But, feel free. So, okay, black and then white. What do you think?
L18?
L18, yep. And then, we can kill those stones that way. So, right now, oh, that was loud. It's your choice. If you want to kill those stones, you can. You've seen that variation. You can do it. So that's one option. Another option we could consider, let's say, is a one-space jump from your 16-line stone. So you could consider like K14, J14, something like that. If you just wanted to get in the center. That feels a little slow. Another move we could consider, well, just to show, another move we consider, it was proposed earlier, would be like D13, that Hane against those 2 stones that would help build your left side. So sort of a Tanuki in that sense. We could also consider K18, right, which threatens to kill the 2 stones again, but lets them live. But yeah, I think that's fine. Do y'all have any thoughts about that? The H18?
I thought everything you said made sense, except I would say for beginners, when you can capture stones that will give you eye space or connect your stones, you should probably do it. It's just so big. So capturing these 2 stones, it turns out we do get to save H17. I was willing to give it up for lost, but I guess we get to save it. And when you save a stone, your efficiency just goes up. So yeah, I think this is probably the biggest move on the board.
Cool. And Fijian in chat, I'm sorry to ignore you just because we're talking about the game. And thank y'all in chat for talking about, for helping answer his question. And also, just so you know, on OGS, the server we're playing in, they also have an ELO system, which is similar to chess, something more familiar to you. But yeah, we usually go 30Q up to 1Q, then 1 Dan, which is like a black belt, up to 9 Dan. And then there's pro ranks. So 1 pro sort of overlaps with like 8, 9 Dan amateur. And that goes up to 9 pro, but pro ranks work differently.
Toby, count the liberties. There's a fight happening here, a capturing race.
Yes.
Count the liberties and see if you need to play again.
Oh, apologies. Fire Scourge, thank you. OGS uses a Glyco system. So Toby, what are the 2 groups that are in a capturing race right now? So there's a capturing race, which means that one of the groups is going to live, and that will make the other group die, or vice versa. One of the groups will die, which will make the other one live. What are the ones in danger?
White J17 and J18.
That's right. And then for
my 8,
yes,
H18 and 7.
yes.
So,
And how many liberties do each of the groups have?
2.
They both
Right.
have 2, right?
If they have the same amount, you must play first.
I think K18 is my next move.
That works.
Perfect.
But that's a really important skill. When the capturing races are small like this, it's pretty easy to see. When they get bigger, you really have to be careful, because if it's like 5 to 5 and you're like, I really want to play in the other corner, and then you lose the race, well, you should have counted. But if it's 5 to 6, you can afford to wait 1 more move because you have 6 liberties.
I especially have a problem with those because there are moves which can give you more liberties. Like in this case, there's not much, right? But in more complicated races, you have to count like, oh, what if they make a 6-space eye, and then I have to jump in there and they can kill it. There are things you can memorize.
You don't have all the eye spaces memorized?
I don't.
Maybe that's the next step.
I just resign whenever there's a capture race. I just go, well, I don't know how to count, so I just quit. Okay. So with this move,
So
oh,
back to
go ahead, Toby.
what we were talking about a minute ago.
Hmm.
I know my H18 and 17 stones, the 2 liberties, is J takes 1. So as of right now, I don't need to really answer that.
Exactly. Yes.
I
Thank
could
you.
go do something else.
Yes, Toby. So if you just played like J18 right now, that would be so slow, right? Because you're killing dead stones.
Yeah, capturing the 2 stones is worse than passing right now. Well, it's not worse.
At that point, I'd give him a free move, right?
Right, yeah.
If I capture, he just gets to go do something else on the board, and he knows those stones are gone anyways, so he'll be happy with that.
Absolutely.
So to me, I need to go play somewhere on the board.
Right, so in this
One makes
situation,
more
we would say you have Sente. So what do you want to do with your Sente?
Okay, so D10 still looks nice to me.
D10. Okay.
Is there a move on the board that does what D10 does, but also does something else?
D13, possibly.
Is that
I vote we let them play for 10 moves or so.
Oh.
Because all the advice, the game is swinging in Black's favor at this point.
Okay, sure. So Toby, all right, you take the steering wheel, but if you don't mind, just walk us through what you're thinking, and feel free to take your time and reason it out yourself, just out loud, stream of thought, no judgment.
I
Just
guess what I said depends on black reducing the right side at some point.
that's
But
what I
if
was
that were to
thinking.
happen, black is ahead in this game.
Okay.
If that doesn't happen, it's pretty even.
So I think D13 would be a good move. It helps extend territory and put some pressure on the two whites now.
Yeah, it does both of those things.
By the way, y'all in chat, I know on Discord you can't hear it because Discord is cool, but in chat, can y'all hear my 3D printer whizzing away in the background? It's doing some really interesting like things right now, and I don't know if that's loud. Y'all let me know if that's distracting.
So, curiosity, if he doesn't answer this, is E15 a good next move if he doesn't,
Maybe. I think you could also consider like E13, which kind of builds a wall and also threatens E15, right? So if you play E15, then later E15 would kill those two stones. So white might feel obligated to go ahead and fix that, which means you get the move for free, right? But just a thought.
can't. E13 is bad. This is where everybody in the Discord goes.
I mean, I kind of like that, right? Because it threatens F14, which would be a very uncomfortable forcing move for white. So that's kind of nice.
Oh, no, I'm just waiting for the where I make a mistake and everybody just slaps their forehead at the same time. This much different.
So the move you made without any help was probably the best move in this shape. So trust your instincts.
Nice.
I liked F14. But I like the complicated shape moves.
You wanted to play F14 instead of E13?
Yeah.
You are a monster. What the heck?
If you're going for a kill, maybe, but the pushing from behind is like for two moves when there's already an empty triangle. This feels great for black.
Is it okay for me to extend one more at like F13?
Well, we're gonna let you make the call because black's starting to pull ahead.
I'm gonna do it. I think this is okay.
Cool. Can I ask why? Like, what was your purpose with that move?
Well, but my thought process is I can extend one more. I leave a cutting point at C13, but I don't think it would matter too much. But my goal is with F13, is to get some territory down towards my the bottom, down towards like my D group and stuff. I want to try to take that side.
Yeah. So maybe something like what white just played could have also been appropriate, right? You'd started building that wall. Maybe you could go ahead and extend because continuing toward the center, this time it didn't really threaten much for white. So white felt free to invade, right? So maybe we could have considered something like D10 a little bit earlier. But okay, cool. Thank you for explaining, sort of what your thought was there.
Just some comments for white. I don't know if he's listening, but jumping in like that is okay. But I think shoulder hitting at D7 and reducing or walking down the potential of how big that area can grow, because it's a little closer to his stones, makes it a little bit safer of a reduction as well. It still has a pretty big impact on limiting black in that area.
Okay. So you attached to his stone. Now, earlier we said that you want to attach to stones to build strength, right? So often when there's an invading stone, we don't want to attach to it directly. Sometimes it's okay, but a lot of times attaching directly actually just sort of gives it a target, something to fight against. Um, and it feels a little bit crowded, right? So, D11 extending from a 3 high wall, it's just a little bit heavy, right? So we might have considered something else, but okay. So that's where we are, and that's fine. Just wanted to throw that in there. Fijian said, it seemed to me that a game on a 19 board would take hours to finish because of all the possibilities, but I guess that's not the case. You just get used to it. Yeah, my first game took about 2 days because me and Kyle were just like, ugh, what do we do, right? But yeah, like 30 minutes to an hour is a pretty typical 19 by 19 game. Right, pro title matches, especially in Japan, I don't know if they do it in other countries, they can take 2 days.
Yeah, I don't know what to do here. Because I know playing E11 it's not a good choice for one. I don't want to oversaturate too many stones right there in that area.
That's great. Yeah, that really good eye there. That feels heavy, right? Too many stones, not enough points, right?
So,
Take a moment to look at the whole board, because no one is in immediate danger. Well, actually, someone is, but we're not going to talk about it. It's been true since the beginning of the game. But
I've been ignoring it.
the largest open area that white has the most potential to build in, where do you think that is?
the right side of the...
Yeah, the right side is pretty large. So how do we go about dealing with that? You can either poke at it from the outside, reduce it, or you can dive in and invade. Those are really your only options when it comes to looking at an area like that.
And I'm really curious as well what y'all think about that, because there are sort of a couple things you can do when you invade. You can do what White did here and just sort of find the biggest open spot and hop in. But there are other special tactics, right? You can attach to something immediately, or you can. There are certain, like I don't know, S17 or something. There are silly little points that you can invade and things like that. I'd be interested in what y'all would do.
See, I'm not very sure where to go about evading with that. That's where I struggle.
So if you want to reduce from the outside, try to draw the lines between the loose white stones. So you see that rectangle of stones? Draw lines between them in your head. There's also a line we could draw from the R6 stone up to the Q10 stone. Just sort of pretend there's a string between those two. Or between the N10 stone and the N15 stone, there's like a string tied between them. When you're reducing a framework, you play on the line and in the middle. Now, there isn't a great middle point here, but if you play past that line, it can be difficult, right? So if the line goes from N15 to N10, if you play on the O file, you are already in the territory. But if you play on the line, it's really hard for white to keep you out. So that would be a reduction move. If you want to invade, you do exactly what white did. You look for the largest space where there isn't a white stone, and you just plop your black stone right in the middle.
Yeah, I'm perfect.
And both of them are valid ways to play.
I'm trying to figure out if I wanted to... Is N13 or N12 a decent move to try to help reduce? I'm not sure.
Did you say N?
Yeah,
Like
N13.
what I was talking about? Yeah, so N12 or N13 would be following that idea of playing on the line. You play on the door of the territory. You don't play inside it. Now, if you're going to invade, we'd probably be looking at the R file, or the S even the second line, S15 or R13 are invasion points. Yeah, so this is actually really hard for white to deal with efficiently. If white tries to surround you, you just run. And if white backs off, you push as far in as you can, and then you run. And you have lots of friends in the area.
And I'm sorry, I was reading chat. I don't know if you mentioned this. A lot of times I've heard of this concept as called like flattening the bubble, and I don't know if that's quite appropriate here, but yeah, just sort of drawing the line of the outer border, the potential outer border of your territory, and just playing right on that border because it makes such an annoying decision for your opponent, right? It's difficult to swallow that stone, although white's going to try, and it's uncomfortable to recede, right, and grovel. So here,
So white played the most severe move that you can play. This move says you put your foot on the doorstep, and now I'm going to kill you.
oh, fun.
Luckily for us, we can run in two directions, and usually when you can run in two directions, you're fine. So see if you can figure out what I mean by that. There are two openings that you can look to escape towards.
So I don't know. My mindset, I wouldn't mind playing something like 013 because then I don't know. I could run to that bottom group, or possibly to my stone on the end line. But I don't think 013.
Yeah.
Correct.
Wait. 013?
Yeah. I don't think.
Hold on. Let me. I think I have. Wait. Oh no. 013 is going deeper.
So right now what we're considering is we're saying that white is casting too loose of a net, where the grid of the net is so large that you can weasel through it and get out. Because if you can get out, that also means that you're in, right? If you
Ooh, wide words. I like that.
I have an idea of maybe a stone to play. What if I played M13?
James Truitt, thank you for the follow. You are officially a nerd. Welcome to the group. Let's get some nerds in chat. Thank you. Sorry.
M13 is like white is trying to shut the door and you're slamming your face into the door. Maybe we should go around the door.
See, going around the door.
The door is L13.
Yeah.
Pick a new door.
So the directions I'm looking at are M12 or M14. Either of those moves, white chases, you just keep running and you have friends in the area.
Jane.
When you said that, I thought my first response was M14 would have been a good play.
Yeah.
If M13 didn't work. But
yeah, M13 is actually pretty interesting, but it doesn't achieve what we want, which is to move out.
I guess I need to stop second guessing myself.
DJ95 also made a comment in chat. Thank you for joining, DJ95. That move in particular is called an elephant's eye. So just to put a name to it, for those of you who might not know, when there's diagonal stones with a diagonal spot in the middle that's missing, the middle spot is called the elephant's eye. And y'all, I don't think we'll play this game to completion because we'll start talking about end game and stuff, and this is really sort of an introduction to the 19x19 board. So we might just sort of let this invasion play out to a point where it's settled, and then kind of call it quits there and just consider this a good lesson if that's all right.
Yeah, we've talked about a lot. I think that's a great idea. Couple more moves here, and we can summarize the board position. But I want to ask Toby, how do you feel about the two moves that white played? The first one was like closing a door, trying to keep you inside, and then you slipped out. So what's white doing now?
I feel like with the next move, he's trying to push me farther out of his.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was like he tried to close the door, but you already had your foot in the door. So he couldn't keep you out, but he can keep you from coming farther inside. That's a really good way to think about it. And what he played L13 and realized, okay, I can't seal you in and kill you, so I'm going to keep the territory I have. So what I said before, now you're in, so make a mess. Yeah, I see him typing in chat. I'm crying. My territory gets unraveled. My beautiful block. Yeah, exactly. That's the story that's being told here. So now you're in, so make a mess.
Congratulations to Toby for his first 19 by 19 and for his gracious opponent who led us. Peanut Gallery the entire time. Great sport, wonderful game.
Thank you for the donation, Spicy Santa. Good commentary too.
So I want to make a mess of this. I don't know. For me, I don't know where to go next. I feel like somewhere on the O line to go farther in may be beneficial, but I'm not sure.
So the most natural move here is to Hane at O12, I believe is. Yeah, it is 12. O12 is the most natural move. But white might cross-cut you. And then it gets more complicated.
It's fun, but yeah, it is complicated. Yeah.
No.
Oh! Everyone goes, oh no!
You know how hard it is to play a mobile with fat fingers?
Yeah,
Lord
so
doesn't like you.
Put it on submit mode, where you have to like place the stone and then hit submit, and that way you can help prevent that. But don't do it right now, but for next time.
I would request an undo for that one because that
I did, but I don't know if Kyle will give it to me.
He's like, this is my chance.
Oh, okay.
So I'm actually really curious. Go ahead and play O12 because is it Kyle, the white player?
Kyle is white.
Yeah.
That's right.
Tell us a lot about his style. If he backs off, that's actually fine here. White's making a lot of points. If he cross cuts, he's a maniac, but it might work.
He 100% cross cuts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Knowing Kyle like I do.
I simply would. Almost definitely.
So this, yeah, it's a fun fight. It's a lot like the stone that you were going to sacrifice at 8-17. You're going to use that stone that just got cut off to give you a bunch of forcing moves. But this might be a good place to sort of summarize where we're at, unless you want to play out the next. It'll be about 4 moves for us to see where this goes.
So.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but I really.
I was just gonna say, let's play about 4 or 5 more moves, and then we'll call it a game there, if that's all right.
I want to play O4. What we're gonna do? No! Fine. I'm not gonna undo it this time. Fat fingers can just deal with it. It's not gonna work well.
So let me ask, were you aiming for the Atari from the other side?
Yeah, I was trying to go for O14, but misclick.
That's great though. Your misclicks happen, but O14 was the right idea. O14 was making great use of the stone on the inside to force white to back off, and then you could have connected. Because of the misclick, I think now we have to go deeper and try to live. But I think O14 was the right move, so good job.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know what to do now.
Tread carefully next time.
Yeah, I need to put it on submit move. I'm not sure what to do now. I feel
Well, it
like
got a lot harder. Now we have to look for a place to live inside. Or abandon.
I mean, there are ways to live inside.
Well, yeah, but I don't want to make
Well,
it too.
Yeah, it's going to be a mess if we try to live inside. Maybe this is a fair time to just cut the game and say, like, this fight will decide the game, largely. But the tactics will be complicated, and maybe we're diverting from our purpose by continuing to...
Toby, can you visualize, or even, I think you can, in OGS, you can play the moves out if you go into analysis mode. It would be O14 for black, P13 for white, N14 for black. And the N15 stone for white is now isolated. So you gave up the crosscut stone at O12, but you gained one back. And you're just sort of pushing the border of white back. That would be the expected sequence. The misclick complicates everything. But that can be fun too.
I think in this kind of position, his only chance is to snip off that N10 stone and try it from the bottom.
Oh, there's so much space. You can make a living group for black. There's like 6 ways to live inside.
Yeah, you lose your attack on the 2 stones on the left.
Yeah. But I'm just trying to get him to see the where the boundaries were and why O14 made sense.
That's why I was thinking 014.
Good. Did you have the
Yeah.
follow-up that white would extend and then you would have to fix at N14?
Right. But then I push him farther back into the side, which is less territory.
Absolutely. So yeah, you had the sequence in your mind. That's a big a win, I think. So,
Are we going to stop here, Tom?
Well, let me ask the Dawn players because you guys understand what we're going for here. I mean, do you think there's value in continuing here, or maybe this is
So-
good enough?
I want to mention, just for the sake of anyone watching, and it's maybe enlightening. The biggest move on the board has been for the last, I don't know, 70 moves or so, F2.
Oh,
Um,
okay, yeah.
We've been ignoring that those 2 black stones are not dead. And they can slip out either above or below, or they can connect over to the right side. If you play F2, E2, H2, white has to fix on the left and you connect up to the right. It's complicated, but it's really hard to comment on the game because the white group is unsettled this whole time.
Sure.
I've been eyeing a move like F8 to address it, and then just eating those 2 stones. Because if you play F8 and he does anything else, you can just kill that entire white group.
Well, yeah, you go for a kill. I would just have the white group running, but aside from that little oversight, most of the moves in this game have been very reasonable, and until this invasion, just sort of cutting up the board into pieces of territory. So I think it's a good place to stop. We have another fight breaking out, but that's what that's how Go is. It's it's a game where both people struggle to win, so there's lots of fights. But if you just click back through the moves, there is a story being told with this game. So
Yeah, and I think that when players are starting on 9x9, they learn a lot about this fighting. Not to say they necessarily become good at the fighting, but that's all they know. And especially, I've even heard people criticize. Some people start with like Capture Go, right, just to learn the rules of fighting, and they're like, no, you're teaching them to be too combative. And this sort of dicing up the board is really the skill that's missing when you jump up there. So I think this is a great game. If you don't mind, I'll save the VOD and put it on YouTube just for posterity for the 6 people who will watch it. Because I think this is a really useful teaching game.
Me, personally, being a 9x9, I usually play on 9x9 and not play on 19x19. A couple of things I struggled with personally, or one is how to invade, because you don't really invade on a 9x9 board. There isn't much space to invade, I guess, really.
Sure.
And we didn't get to it, but I really like the understanding of endgame, because there's not much of an endgame compared to like a 13x13 or a 19.
yeah, actually, one way to think about 9x9 is after the first 6 moves, it's all endgame.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah, endgame is a whole nother thing on 19x19. It's much more about just evaluating the value of moves and saying, well, if I play here, I get 4 points, but if I play here, I get 6 points. But if I play here, I stop white from getting 10 points. So that's the best move, right? So endgame is tough. It takes a long time.
Just try not to let my games get to that point.
Yeah, win before endgame. Nice.
Toby, the other thing I want to stress, I liked the way you handled I wouldn't even call it an invasion until the last move. It was a reduction. You played on the line and you're forcing white back, you're reducing. And there's a proverb I think we don't use enough: reduction is as big as invasion.
Mm.
So I see in a lot of Q games that, oh, he's building a big framework, time to dive in.
I'm absolutely guilty of that. Yeah.
Sometimes a shoulder hit or playing on the line and just sort of forcing them back. And then you can think of it like worms eating around the sides of an apple. Like, you just sort of nibble away at it and they're left with very little. A lot safer than diving in and potentially dying. So, yeah, reduction is as big as invasion. It's just something to think about
Cool.
for your future games. But I would be happy with this and finish it up on
Cool.
a future stream, or if you just end up playing it. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, thank you all so much for joining. And just for posterity's sake, well, I don't know if it's posterity, whatever, just to say it, guy in chat. So you are very active in the Twitch community. We see you in chat all the time in Go, and you also do some lessons on Go Gooplets stream. You review pro games and teach. Do you also give lessons, private lessons, or anything like that?
I haven't.
Okay.
I'm actually a teacher. I'm an English teacher and
Oh,
I
awesome.
tutor. I've been thinking about transferring that skill to maybe doing Go lessons. But I mostly play. I like to join the streams, comment and teach. I enjoy it.
Sure.
But I mostly just play for fun these days. I haven't been playing to improve, sort of like what you said. If I started doing that, I might start teaching.
Sure.
I have a question for you, Guy.
I will say, always happy to give if I have time, if I'm available. My name is the same on OGS. Just add me as a guy in the chat on OGS and message me whenever I'm online. You can also message me on Twitch, and I'll do a game review. I'll go over one of your games, or I'll answer a question about a life and death problem. Whatever I can do to help.
Thank
When
you.
I have free time, building the Go community in the West is something I really value and believe in. So.
Awesome. And then Spicy Sente, how about you? Do you do lessons or anything like that?
I don't like charge for lessons or do anything like that. I'm always happy to help out. I hang out a lot on KGS and the KTL, although it has kind of died off recently.
Mm.
It's not as active as it was, even a year ago. But I'm always up for like teaching games and things like that. I do tend to play like even, unless you are really wanting to learn to defend your territory, then I'll play a handicap game.
Sure.
I did it, I would say my style of play is not the best for teaching. Just
Sure.
because I'm very aggressive. I like fighting. I like starting really complicated situations
Cool.
because it's much easier to make the entire board into a life and death problem than it is to softly divide it up and win by 2 points. It's actually something I've been working on, is trying to win most of my games by like within the margin of Komi. It's incredibly difficult.
Cool. We'll go ahead and cut the VOD off there just for the sake that I'll say it. So thank y'all for watching if you're watching the VOD.